hello everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the Wartburg Confusion Entertainment Review. I'm Thomas, aka MrWartburg, and alongside me as usual is Mr. Fusion.
What's up, guys?
So yeah, it's September 24th here where we're recording episode 2. We have a shitload of news to get through today. Like, the last 2 weeks since episode 1 have been just stuffed full of cool shit. From all kinds of entertainment media, from pop culture stuff. We got video games, movies, TV shows, tech, like, you name it, there's shit to talk about.
There's shit for everybody.
Yeah, like
a smorgasbord of shit.
Yeah, it's very, very appetizing, you know, when you play it back in your ear. So
maybe shit was the wrong term to use when we talk about appetizing.
Phonetically, it goes with smorgasbord.
Yeah,
you know, it fits. It fits. Yeah. So
okay.
Before we get into that just mountain of stuff to get through, let's talk through a little of what we've been watching, playing, or raiding in the last 2 weeks since we recorded episode 1. So Fusion, what have you been up to?
Well, I think I told you about this. I have been watching, of course, The Boys season 2. Also, the other day I watched The Power of Grayskull, which was the He-Man documentary on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
really good. I mean, I'm going to tell you guys, it's a little boring, but it's actually good because it actually tells you the actual history of where everything came from with He-Man, and Mattel, and their rise with He-Man, the toys, and leading to the TV show. And then the other thing was, and I told you about this, I watched this movie, the sequel called The Babysitter Killer Queen. It's
I saw you post that.
Yeah, so it's based off of the sequel to the first movie from 2017. It stars I think her name is Samara Weaving. Yeah, Samara Weaving. Yeah, she was in Ready or Not, which is a really good underrated movie. They both were directed by Mick G, and if you're over the age of 23, you have to know who Mick G is or was at some point. Great dialogue. Yeah, they're not the best movies, but I will tell you, they're a lot more entertaining than they should be, really. Like, the dialogue is fucking hilarious. The CGI is a little because it is, a low budget film, but the story isn't that bad. I was entertained. Especially with the second one. I was very entertained, I will admit that.
Yeah, like on top of I can't remember. I don't know if it's Samara or Samara. Well, yeah, she was in Bill and Ted 3 too. She played.
Thea.
Yeah, and they also have Robbie Amell in there, and I'm a huge Robbie. I like Robbie Amell.
And Robbie
is hilarious.
He was hilarious in the first one, and they played up his whole shirtless muscle guy act, and then they played up even to a bigger extent in the sequel here. And what's her name? Bella Thorne. She's actually hilarious. She was kind of funny in the first one, but you could tell they were like really. That's where she was her whole Instagram and her overexposure on social media. They really they took advantage of that. But in this second one, she's a lot funnier. I will admit that. Yeah, I thought that was it's not going to be like some type of award-winning film by any means, but it was entertaining, man. Like I said, these movies are a lot funnier and entertaining than they should be.
Okay, I might have to check them out. For me, mine's mostly been on video games because I've been putting in like a ton of hours in Assassin's Creed Origins because I'm getting ready for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is coming out this fall. I'm probably gonna get that on Xbox, and then of course, because it's in ancient Egypt and dealing with the gods and stuff, I was like, I have Hulu, and Hulu has all of Stargate, so fuck it. I watched like the highlights of Stargate seasons 1 through 7, which just really just good, dumb, fun popcorn sci-fi. Like, I just really enjoyed it. That's mostly been what I've been up to on the playing and watching side. I was gonna watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 7, but it's still not on Netflix.
That's weird, man.
It's been a month. So at this point, you gotta wonder, okay, what the fuck? Is it coming to Disney Plus? I don't know.
You would have to think so at this point, man. You would have to think so.
I can only imagine because like all the other ones were two weeks to maybe a month, but there's nothing on the press releases for like the what's coming to Netflix stuff. Nothing's been said about like where it's gonna be, when it's coming out. They've been very tight-lipped. Disney has, and Marvel has as well. They haven't even really talked about the show since it really went off the air. So I gotta imagine they're gearing up for a Disney Plus like drop it all type thing, which I'll watch it there because I have Disney Plus. Plus, Mandalorian's coming out, so like, it'll actually get me to use that service more consistently again. I've just been kind of paying for it and not using it since it's not the most expensive.
Ditto.
But yeah, that was my plan, was to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 7. Watch my watch the team's last ride, but nope, don't get to do that.
That's weird. That is so weird, and it's once again one of those things that where Agents of Shield has really been the redheaded stepchild of the MCU and Marvel Studios, just because I don't know, man. They really it seems like they don't really care, and got a it's got a very devoted following, and it's
Yeah,
just the way they've treated it over the years has been very disappointing. Of course, we're not getting Gabriel Luna's Ghost Rider, which
I was very very bummed when that did not get picked up.
Uh, and he's bummed about it because he was like, "Yeah, man, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do Ghost Rider. It's gonna be great.
Yeah,
Disney's all for it." And then a couple months later, he's like, "I don't know what happened. They just told me we're done. We're not. We're done."
yeah, and then they picked up Hellstrom. Like,
Yeah.
really? A character like nobody fucking knows about.
No, no, no.
Nobody fucking
Yeah, yeah.
nobody does. Not really. Whereas Ghost Rider, coming off a popular TV series as a spinoff, kind of, and it's Ghost Rider. That shit's fucking metal as hell. It's awesome. It doesn't have that weird kind of like satanic American Horror Story vibe that is not for everybody.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider, like, is a character people know and give a shit about. Like, why'd you not? I don't understand it. I just never did.
My only theory on that could be based off of how it ended for him in his last appearance in Agents of Shield. He may show up in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
I would be down for that because
May not have like a starring role, but may have a secondary cameo appearance.
yeah, like I could imagine him just like showing up in an alternate dimension, be like, wait, and then Strange sees him, and it's like it's this skull on fire with a like biker jacket, and you're like, what the fuck? And then he moves on like it wasn't, it was just a thing.
Well, I mean, he exists within. We've established he exists within the MCU at this point. He has the same sling ring teleportation power as
Exactly.
Doctor Strange does. So just by default of being the Sorcerer Supreme, he knows about Ghost Rider. He has to
Yeah.
know about him, right?
Or at least the Johnny. What's the first one?
Johnny Blaze.
Johnny Blaze. Because like he's set up in Agents of Shield as the first one. You really only see him for like the 2 frames.
Yep.
When he's resurrecting Robbie that first time, which was oh my god, that scene. Holy shit. That was great. That flashback episode with how Robbie got his powers. God, that was good. But yeah, I'm curious to see where that all wraps up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and what they end up doing with their TV properties going forward. Because they cast, that was another one that got cast, speaking of Marvel's TV, we'll get into some more Marvel news in a little bit, was the She-Hulk got cast.
Yep.
It's Tatiana something from Orphan Black. Lady plays all the clones.
Yep.
So that'll be one to keep an eye on. But I don't want to get into the comic book news just yet, because we got some other news to get into first.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So going to the wire slide here. First up, we've got as you can see here, Amazon's Luna news. We got Among Us 2 being canceled. We got a shitload of comic book news on Marvel, DC, you name it. We're going to talk about Boys episodes 4 and 5, plus the Boys new spin-off news that dropped like literally right before we went live with our recording. But to start with, I want to talk a little follow-up on a story we talked about last week, which was the Milan kind of, was it a quality release? Was it not? What was Disney? What's their takeaway from it? A lot more data has come out about its release via a number of different sites and people that track, app data and things like that. So a story from Yahoo Finance saying that Disney Plus scored a big financial windfall with Mulan's streaming release. Story here says that according to 7Park data, nearly 20% of the US-based Disney Plus users accessed the app between September 1st and 12 seconds, and 29% of those that accessed the app purchased the movie, which is a significant number. I do believe, I can't remember how many total subscribers it was, about globally, 30. Globally 60 million, US make up about 50. So you're talking, 10 million people bought this movie at $30. Like, that ain't chump change.
No.
And it's money that Disney's keeping in-house. And that's just US based, let alone what the global data was. This firm only decided to track the US release to give it a US box office number, more or less. That was the point of the study. But like looking at the rankings here, they've got a graphic of like which titles were accessed by percentage of active users. So you got 29% Mulan. The next closest didn't even hit 10%. So it significantly blew the rest of the competition on the app out of the water, and it's one of the most popular video streaming apps out there. And Mulan was easily the biggest. So Disney's CFO, Christine McCarthy, is quoted as saying the company is very pleased with what they've seen so far. So Fusion, what's your takeaway from this kind of smattering of data we've gotten from Mulan's release so far?
Honestly, I'm going to go ahead and go with the X factor here in that movie studio executives still don't know they still have no understanding of the internet and revenue through the internet. I mean, that's how I really see it. So, okay, so let's be real. This film had a budget of $200 million. Is what you go to Wikipedia. That's what it says. You always add about 50% of that additionally in terms of marketing. So let's just say they spent another 50 to $100 million in marketing, somewhere around there. So overall budget on this film was about $300 million. So if you say 10 million at $30 a pop, it's somewhere between 250 and $300 million in terms of total revenue for just the purchase of this film. That doesn't include the ongoing subs. Really can't count on those ongoing subs because they may have only said we'll just pay for 1 month of Disney Plus to watch the movie and move away. So so subs is still a tricky number just because of like companies like WWE that have their network. They inflate their numbers every quarter for
Mm-hmm.
their stockholders meetings, and it's bullshit how they handle it and how that guy hasn't gone to prison for labor laws and
Oh God, yeah.
fucking with his balance sheets and on top of covering up a murder from 40 years ago. Let's don't even get me started on Vince
The
McMahon.
documentaries we're gonna get about him when he's like out of the limelight and/or has passed on,
Yep.
are gonna be so fascinating to watch.
Yep. But anyway, so like but I'll be honest, they were one of the pioneers of streaming networks, like 24-hour streaming content networks. But from a revenue side, it was still a tricky thing. So I can see Disney still saying, yeah, we're excited, but ongoing, the numbers may not be ticking upward or in a trajectory that they want. Hence the moving of certain movies that have recently been announced,
Mm-hmm.
involving the MCU. I think it correlates to the numbers on Mulan. While they're happy about Mulan making its money back, while they're happy about the fact that they get 100% of the revenue rather than sharing with the various box office and theaters out there, I still think they were hoping for more, maybe in the first 2 weeks. Maybe it was, let's just say, be realistic. Let's just say maybe it was $200 million that first week. What if the second week was only about 30 or 40 million?
Yeah, because that kind of
That's,
zeitgeist
yeah,
moment with streaming is a thing. Like you'll
yes,
see massive percentage falls off. Just even a week later on like binge watched shows. Like The
yeah.
Witcher week 2 was nowhere even fucking close to
Well,
week
and
1.
you have to think about this, Warburg, with new released films in the past via box office. Once a movie's out there, piracy is done through screeners.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very different thing now because now they literally someone out there went and decoded the film in HD format and threw it up on torrent sites the
Mm-hmm.
next day. So why should I pay for it in HD when I can just download it in HD at this point? So maybe that return on investment isn't going to be there in week 2, week 3, and onward like they do. It's different because when someone sees a pirated film, previously it's like, oh, well, the quality's not that good. I still want to go see it in HD in the big screen on
Yeah.
a big screen.
Like
Uh,
I can only imagine the Thor Wakanda scene leaking in HD from a Disney Plus source.
oh yeah,
Like when that movie was hitting. That would have been crazy.
yeah,
Right? Like that would have been amazing cuz those you see those clips from theaters now where it's grainy, it's at an angle, the zoom is way off, like it just looks terrible, but it still hits awesome cuz you hear the crowd going nuts, right?
yep,
But imagine if the video was actually good. Like
yep,
that would be for me. The numbers, like if it made its money back, they didn't take a loss, which I'm sure they
no,
were probably expecting. Because
sure,
but I don't think, because like you said, they moved later movies, which we'll get into in a minute. I think they're discounting how much more hype there is for those movies than there was Mulan. Like
yeah, yeah.
nobody
I
really
can
cared
see,
about
yeah,
Mulan as much, especially coming off of Lion King and then Aladdin,
yeah,
which did not resonate as well as their prior live action attempts. I think we're seeing a kind of tail off of that kind of enthusiasm because I don't know what else they have in their stable for live action beyond like a Maleficent, which was kind of its own own spin. Like
sure,
That was not a direct adaptation of Sleeping Beauty or anything. That was just its own thing, and it has Angelina Jolie as like the main character. So that has a lot more going for it for live action adaptations
Sure.
than a straight one to one of an animated movie. So that's an interesting part of the argument, given that the MCU is way more like star power, pop culture hype. Like, just it would bring way more eyeballs than 29% of your users. You're talking at least half. Like,
Well, let's say half, 30 million want to purchase Black Widow.
at
That's
30
900,
bucks,
at 30
that's
bucks, $900 million. Okay, yeah. Are they realistically thinking they're going to get 50% in penetration on their user count
I don't
for
know.
Black Widow?
That would be an interesting one to look at, because I'm wondering. I'll have to go. I might look at these guys, what they have on data for Disney Plus, just to see like what is the usual day. Like what was the hit when they finally brought the X-Men movies onto Disney Plus? What was the hit when they like recategorized like the MCU to actually be chronological by release? Because that was not like the case even like a month ago.
Yeah,
They just finally fixed that.
yeah.
Just so weird, because it was like that in Britain. Britain had the MCU chronologically in order, just on the thing. Just like, that's why didn't you just do that? It makes
Yeah,
all
that was very frustrating early on with Disney Plus.
yeah. It
How
was
they
very
handled the
scattershot, and
MCU. Yeah,
like the
yeah,
algorithm wasn't great at like recommending like similarly grouped content. Like it didn't recommend Rebels for me after watching Clone Wars. Just like, it's the same like type of show, it's the same continuity. Like, why was that not a recommendation? Very just odd. I'm sure that's been cleaned up a lot, given that it's gotten more use now, and they've
yeah.
been able to tailor and tinker to things a little more. And again, I haven't used the app all that much since, I want to say, the spring. I watched Endgame in 4K when I got my TV, but I think that was the last time I was actually on Disney Plus with any kind of regularity.
Yeah.
So moving into the
Yeah.
more, sorry,
Go ahead. Go
let's
for
move
it.
into the more current news. Something that dropped today. Let me close out this story here. Find my Amazon's. Amazon is getting into gaming. We've known about that this was coming for a while. That they were getting into the gaming sphere in some way for quite a while. They've bought some studios. They made some games, put them out on different platforms. Epic Game Store, Steam. Through you could get it. I think they had a client that you could do it. I recall through Amazon, but I can't remember what it was called. Was it Twitch Gaming? Maybe
I
they
think
might
it may
they
have
might
been
have put it out through the Twitch platform. I can't remember because I never played it. But the new thing that they debuted today is called Luna. It is a cloud-based gaming service. They're kind of billing it as like a cable of video games, where they're able to sell access to like publisher channels, kind of like how they do on Amazon's website now. Like, you pay to add on HBO, you pay to add on Stars and Cinemax and all these other platforms, right? Um, so it's an immediate, more kind of competitor on the cloud side to like xCloud and Stadia. Stadia, of course, has fallen completely on its ass and never gotten up. Whereas xCloud is just taking off and is getting some rather positive reviews. Not maybe from the hardcore gamers, which it was never aimed at.
nope.
Every time I read stories, I'm like, oh, it doesn't play, like Halo great. Anybody that's going to give a flying fuck about Halo has a console or has it on Steam. They're not going to play it hardcore interested on a phone. Like, the system's just not there. Like, so that's the whole thing. But xCloud, I think, is more of the future. But let me see here. Reading the story here. Oh, this is I'm looking at a different story than the one I read before before we went live. My bad, people. The perks of like making a podcast on the fly and just
Yep.
with no planning, or maybe a small amount of planning at
I
least.
will jump in and say that this is actually, I have more confidence in this than Stadia, just strictly
Yeah,
because of the fact that this is built on the AWS platform,
exactly. That's where I was going to get
which
to in the story, wherever
which
they end up
is
talking about it.
where Amazon can excel, because they're taking essentially, quietly been watching Game Pass, and they've watched how the sub model works. They've watched the failures of the Valve, the Valve streaming stuff, the device, and Stadia. They've watched the failures of those, and they've watched Sony completely do nothing outside of announcing the PS5 and totally botch everything else since then, which we'll discuss more in a little bit. But they've taken all that and said, you know what, we have the architecture behind it to really be successful, so let's do it. You know, And I think they're gonna be. I think they'll be a solid number two behind Game Pass by the end of next year.
Yeah. So Mark Witten is their company's vice president of entertainment, devices, and services. In an interview with Protocol, said that they won't be following the Stadia model, which is free but requires users to pay for games.
Yep.
And also, I think you could pay for the Pro to get 4K. I think you had to pay for the controller and all that stuff. It's also not following the xCloud model, which is strictly bundled into Game Pass as a subscription ongoing service. It's gonna let's see. It'll offer individual channels for certain publishers. So we'll talk about these guys later, but like a Bethesda or potentially a Microsoft or whatever type of studios want to work with Amazon on this to give them their library. A lot of people are speculating it's going to tie into Prime Gaming somehow because that was just rebranded a couple months ago. So that could be an interesting avenue that they could expand upon. Right now, you're going to have an access to a few dozen games for $5.99 a month. They currently haven't given a list of games. The first channel that they're listing, that's the $5.99 one, is called Luna Plus. It's kind of like Stadia Pro in that it does offer the 4K streaming, and there's no limit on how long you can play. And then that's where the $5.99 comes in. So that's kind of like a price example for maybe what some other channels might cost once they work with other merchants and vendors on like getting their publisher games on the service. Let's see here. Second channel. They did launch a second channel. I didn't see this in the other story I read. The second channel will belong to major game publisher Ubisoft, which is offering the same perks as Luna Plus. Presumably access to most of their library. I'm not sure how well some things will play. Like, I can't imagine playing Rainbow Six Siege on a streaming service. But they have a number of single-player titles that would work great for something like this. Like the entirety of Assassin's Creed, which is like 14 games at this point, just by itself. They haven't said how much that's going to cost, though, but that it will be probably higher priced than Luna Plus, which is the $5.99. Uplay Plus is $15 a month. So it's going to be probably more than the $5.99. I think that's a pretty safe bet.
I would say probably closer to $9.99, probably.
That makes sense for me, given that they're going to hopefully, I think on Ubisoft's side, see an uptick in subscribers, like actually gain revenue through it, so they're probably willing to come down on the price. So where do you stand on Amazon beyond it being on the AWS system? Where do you stand on streaming gaming and Luna gaming?
My first thought that stood out to me when I read this earlier was, I like the fact that they're going to launch this with a partnership with Ubisoft. If you noticed over the last couple months, as we've been talking about consoles, Game Pass, the big news that we'll talk about regarding Microsoft's acquisitions in a little bit, Ubisoft has been really quiet. Really really quiet, and I think when we're looking at a new era of gaming, especially with this coordinating with major publishers. And so I like the idea of opening with Ubisoft. Like you said, they have a ton of titles to work with of single player. They can figure out multiplayer later, but I really think that they have the architecture to really innovate in that regard. You have Microsoft that is working off of their dynamic systems, and which are competitive, but AWS is at another tier. It's up there with Oracle search systems right now, Salesforce systems, in terms of like the stuff I work with in my business life, my job. So I'm very interested to see what happens next, but I will say at this point, without even releasing a fucking game right now, it's number one on the market is Game Pass, number two is Luna, and number three is, where the fuck is Sony PlayStation right now?
Yeah, like they have that PlayStation collection, which is going to have the prior stuff coming, into the PS5 era, and I think they've just punted on streaming. I know they had the what was it, the View, where you could stream some games through because that was like their set top thing.
Yep.
Then they had PS Now. I think it was called PlayStation Now, where you could stream retro games, but it was very laggy. Kind of like that live game thing from like a decade ago, where you could do it technically, but it was just a lot of input lag. Whereas Microsoft and Amazon presumably have made significant strides in the tech, whereas Stadia didn't really. because that was one that never really thought would fly, because like I associate Google with the internet, but not with cloud infrastructure.
No, no.
The only two really players in that game are Microsoft and Amazon
Yep.
on a mass global scale.
Yeah.
So them doing it makes sense with what we know of the company's, current business strategies. It's just interesting to see Amazon get in now that xCloud's not off the starting blocks. Like, it's going now. And they're just now getting into streaming gaming. So I'm
Well,
wondering, can they catch up?
well, the other day I saw Greg Miller tweet out that picture of that Razer device. I forget what
Mm-hmm.
it's called, where it attaches to your cell phone,
Makes it
and
look
he
like a
was talking.
Switch. Yeah.
It makes it look like a Switch, and you can play your xCloud games on it. The thing for me is that, like you said, a true hardcore gamer is not going to like this because of the frame rate, the drop in
Mm-hmm.
res, the colors, whatever it is, whatever it may be. There's going to be elements that they have to give up or forfeit, to play cloud-based versions of these games. The thing is, though, is that there is a subgenre, like a sub-market, and that's that really end user, not the hardcore people, but the
Yeah.
casual people.
Yeah.
That's the kind of shit they want, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's why when that View had the streaming access, as bad as it was, there was a large market that was frustrated because they wanted that. Mobile gamers, I mean, that's why mobile apps, gaming apps, do very well right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's why companies release. They have their AAA titles for consoles and PC, but at the same time they're working on mobile apps as well because there's a large market there as well. It's not untapped; it's tapped, but there is a large end user market out there that they're not hardcore gamers. They just like to play for something just to pass the time. And so I think this is a great opportunity, like you were bringing up about Google. No one bought into it because it was something that Google had never really showed interest in until that point. Like all of a sudden we find out, yeah, Google's like, yeah, we're going to get into the gaming world. Really? What the fuck have you done before that? At
Yeah.
least with Amazon, they're like, we acquired Twitch. We've made strides with our software library offerings on Amazon.com. Like they've really adapted into that. They offer a lot of equipment that may not necessarily be major branded like tech specs. Like I could go buy an RGB keyboard and
Yeah.
mouse that are for gaming setups that are lower market than like a Razer or a Logitech, but they're still just as good. So they've really dipped their toes into the gaming community. So
Yeah,
I
and
think
they've
this is something.
actually made games, even though they didn't really work great.
Yeah,
They've been in the sphere now for a few years. Plus, like, they've made hardware. They have the fireboxes, like that kind of thing.
yeah,
So they're more in that ecosystem than Google ever was, and they have the
yep,
back end infrastructure that Google does not. So
yep,
that'll be an interesting component.
yep.
So next ones on the list are a bunch of quick hitters,
Sure.
bunch of quick ones, because then we got to
Let's
get
go.
into our big topics.
Yes.
But they're no less interesting ones to talk about. This one came out yesterday, which is that Among Us 2 has been canceled, which is the sequel to the game we streamed Sunday, which was a fucking blast. The reason they
Good
canceled
God.
it? Because they're devoting each and every hour of their time to making Among Us 1 better. They're like, fuck it, we just need to work on the code for Among Us 1 because it was so old when they made it. Because it's 2 years old now. And it was not built to support the mass growth that they've seen in like a month and a half. So we're talking like new friend system, so something better than the code system that like Jaxbox uses. Talking colorblind support. I can't imagine being a colorblind player playing that game. It'd be
Oh
crazy.
Lord.
You're talking. They're making a new map. They're gonna improve server stability. It's like actually gaining more servers, especially in the North American region. They said. So that is a fascinating one. Fusion. What were your quick thoughts on Among Us, the game that we played Sunday night?
Hilarious. Took a little while to get used to the map. After that, you really it tests your friendship. Not gonna lie, tests
Yeah.
everybody's friendships. Oh yeah. But I want to play it again. I want all of us to play it again. You have to play it as a group, and if you don't have a group of friends to play with, find a community to jump in on that wants to jump in on it. As an example, we're both a part of the Rooster Teeth community, and a lot of the folks out there love to play the game now. Not only do the people at the company like to play it as a group, but a lot of people in the community want to play it. So there's just join a group, get a bunch of people, play it. You'll have a blast. I can see why they said, "Fuck this. Let's stop worrying about the sequel. Let's pump all of our resources into the first one because we're making money all of a sudden on this
Yeah.
thing."
And it's only $5.
Yep.
So, and because they're a small team, So the money is going to hopefully be well spent.
I think I saw somewhere this week that they actually surpassed the active user base that they beat PUBG at like 35 million active or something like that. Insane.
That wouldn't surprise me because it like
Yeah.
when it popped off on Twitch, it was top 10 on Twitch
Yep.
for like August, and that wasn't peak. I'm curious to see where it peaks in September because it might hit top 5.
Yeah, it was just crazy, man. One day I log on to Twitch and I just see all these people playing this game Among Us. I'm like, the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah,
I just
I'd
see
never
everybody
heard of it,
Among everybody, and I'm like, what is this game? And then I see some of you guys playing it. I'm like, okay, I gotta pay $5 for it, and let's try it. And
and it
I
was
had a
blast.
blast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so fun. I'm gonna be hoping putting together another one. Of course, we did play it in a stream, and I do have the archive up on YouTube. That's on this channel. If you'd want to check that out, that'd be fine. Moving on, we got a ton of comic book news. So what I'm gonna do is kind of run down my list of comic book news that because it's a big list of just the last week and a half. Then once we're through the list, Fusion, I'm going to ask you kind of like what sticks out to you. What of those stories? What is the one you want to talk about for a little bit?
Let's go.
All right, so comic book news. Here we go. Stick with DC first. Wonder Woman has been delayed, pushed to Christmas. Wonder Woman 1984 specifically. I believe this is the third time it's been delayed now.
Sixth time.
Sixth time total it's been delayed. Oh my god.
Yes.
It was expected to come out literally in a week, like October 2nd. But now it's coming out on Christmas Day. Maybe. Probably not, to be totally honest, because they don't really have a digital platform that Disney does with their stuff. So, yeah, that's the first one. Yeah. Other ones that were delayed by Warner Brothers. Dune was slated. No, Dune hadn't moved, so it's going to be, if everything happens, Dune on December 18th. I fucked up that. Dune in December.
Dune 18th.
Dune on December 18th. Then Wonder Woman a week later. I can't see that happening.
Nope.
That's got to be moved. One or the other has to move. They say 70% of movie theaters have reopened across the country, but the revenue's not there because it's a fucking pandemic. No one's going to the movies. So I can't imagine that one's actually going to hit its date. Other one in DC, on the TV side, Supergirl will end with season 6 at the CW. This is coming as the Superman and Lois seasons get started in season 1, which is a more Smallville type focused show, at least in the beginning of its run. It'll probably move back to Metropolis later on if it continues and finds success. I believe the total number of episodes it's probably going to hit, if they hit 20, is like 130, which, hey, it ain't bad for Supergirl. I mean, it's not Smallville hitting like 215, which is crazy. But I actually like their Supergirl. I'm not a huge fan of some of the other parts of the show. But Melissa, is it Benoit? Is that how you say her name? Or do you say
Melissa
it?
Benoit.
Melissa
Benoit?
Yeah, I don't... How people pronounce the ones that are like weirdly French last names always trip me up. Also, DC TV news. HBO Max is going to be absorbing the originals content on a DC universe, the latter of which will transition into a comics first platform, as well as the older DC content. So like their old DCAU, the old DC movies, things that aren't in the current zeitgeist that'll be on HBO Max, because obviously the company owns both, so they can move titles back and forth at ease. Those original contents will include a renewed Season 3 for both Doom Patrol and Harley Quinn, which is the bigger news for me, because holy shit, Harley Quinn is already one of the best shows DC's ever put out. Animated or live action. It's awesome. Other DC TV news. An HBO Max spinoff, probably a single season, 6-episode one that they said. I think they said 6 or 8. Can't remember if it was 6 or 8, but it's probably just going to be a one-off, if it actually ever gets made. Is the Suicide Squad spinoff starring Peacemaker, which is a John Cena character. Basically, like if Captain America and Punisher were the same character, more or less. Yeah, they just haven't there, but they're not saying when the show is set because they don't want to spoil anything for Suicide Squad. So we don't have a lot of news on that one. But that one does follow off the heels of HBO Max giving a spin-off order, single season spin-off order as like kind of like a year one story for the Batman from Matt Reeves. And much like the Batman one, where Matt Reeves is going to be like show running and directing most of the episodes, James Gunn will be heavily involved in the writing and directing of the Peacemaker spin-off series. So that's the DC news. You close those other articles. So now, one more DC Comics. This one's actually a comic story, Fusion. Is that according to Jim Lee, who is the head of DC Comics, their chief creative officer, the 5G is totally dead, and there is no comics reboot planned for the entirety of the 2021 publishing year. So we're going to get a longer shelf life and breathing room for the current slate of DC Comics, barring what needs to be canceled and relaunched due to COVID struggles with publishing, as well as some of that was also due to the Diamond shutdown, I believe. So I didn't really get into it. That came out of the DC Fandom Part 2, which came out the weekend after we did Episode 1. So that's the DC news. Anything on DC that you want to dive in on?
I think I do want to touch on this just because we were big fans of some of the CW products. Supergirl being canceled or ending. I don't know if you want to say ending or being canceled. I don't know. I think this has to do mostly with Melissa Benoist or Benoist, or I forget how your
Yeah,
last name is pronounced.
it's in
But
my brain. I just can't
let's
pull it
just
out right
let's
now.
just call her Melissa. She actually is. She just had a baby, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
So maybe she just feels it's time for her to wrap it up, or I don't know, just because this show got moved over from, was it CBS? It
yeah.
was
It started at
CBS for
CBS. Yeah,
CBS, moved over to CW. I have a concern now that I think the CW is starting to wear thin with all of their DC properties. I think
and
they
that was
just feel a
always an
little bloated.
eventuality too.
Yeah, yeah. Just overexposure, man. You have Black Lightning still there, the Flash, which it's kind of interesting to me that the Flash is going to deceive as season 7 now, I
Mm-hmm.
believe it is. I honestly have not watched the last 2 seasons just because I haven't been very
Yeah,
I've been very disappointed after season 4. Yeah, season
5 was
4.
pretty good because they had the Thinker,
Okay.
and they actually did a decent job with that.
Okay.
Because he's a weird villain to get right, and they mostly did it right.
That was season 4, 5.
5, I think,
4.
and then
Okay.
season 6 was kind of a mishmash of big bads. Like there was several.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So I just really, I kind of fell out of the Flash, even though the first 2 seasons I absolutely love them. I think they're great TV. The first 3 seasons of Arrow were great. It's just, yeah, I just very disappointed with hearing the news. But I'm wondering if this is a CW plan, or did Melissa decide to say, hey, I just want to hang it up. I'm wondering what the bigger story is with Supergirl being canceled, because with Arrow ending, I thought the Flash and Supergirl were going to be the
mm-hmm.
flagships going forward for this, especially with Ruby Rose leaving
yeah,
Batwoman.
that was so weird.
Yeah,
Like where they're gonna steer the ship is on. Like I could see her wanting to go do other projects. Like that's perfectly valid for everybody to want to do. Because I believe, at this point her contract's definitely up.
yeah,
Probably on a signing it every year type deal after the initial run was done. And then what they might do is maybe pull in Martian Manhunter over as like a Justice League type character. Maybe do more Justice League focused stories in that like it's not a specific character and cast of shows all the time.
sure.
Because they did set that up post Crisis on Infinite Earths that they've actually formed the Justice League now, even though Green Arrow didn't live to see the day, which sucked.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day, I was like, it'd be really cool is they were just like, fuck it, we're doing Final Crisis and it's done. It's all done. Like, if they could ever build to that point, that'd be dope. Like, that'd be incredibly cool. Now, Crisis on Infinite Earths would have been the way to do that. Because then you rebirth the universe and you get that moment where they form the Justice League and then it's leave them off into the sunset for continuing adventures, right? But Final Crisis has a cooler name as a finale.
Yep, true.
So I could see them doing a Final Crisis like story. Maybe just call it Final Crisis and not do the Final Crisis story from the comics. Because that was the one where Batman shot Darkseid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then Infinite Crisis was the one where Superboy died. At the hands of
Crisis?
Superboy Prime, right?
Yes, that's the one
where
where
Superboy
Superboy
Prime
Prime just becomes a fucking murdering asshole. Yes.
Yeah.
He murdered like half the Green Lantern Corps in that
Yeah,
series.
it was crazy. So I could imagine them doing a Final Crisis to kind of end everything, or like rebirth everything again to just, hey, these are the characters. Everybody's alive. Everybody's moving on. Fuck it. We'll even bring Stephen Amell back for an episode, and everybody's alive, continuing on, and just our universe continues, but the stories that you're gonna watch are over. Eventually, that's got to happen because the actors aren't gonna stick around forever.
Yeah.
There's so many balls in the air with the CW. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And now they have to deal with Netflix opening up a Vancouver production studio. It's like, so that's going to make getting talent and like production crews harder.
Yeah.
So
I think this might be the end of all of the Arrowverse. I think
yeah,
slowly over the next couple of years,
assuming the
I don't see great.
Superman Lois does not hit, because like
Yeah,
Superman
that's
is
true.
top tier character.
Sure.
I mean, and Smallville did great for a long time, and they're filming in the Smallville town, like the same everything, except they're building like a few new sets, like like they're doing like a county fair set and a few different things with like 3-year leases. So it sounds like their plan for Smallville is like a 3-year kind of deal, at least for right now.
Sure.
Obviously, show plans change at a moment's notice, but
Yeah.
that's what the current rumor mill has going for it. So let's jump to Marvel real quick.
Let's go.
Close my DC stuff. Save the
Make mine Marvel.
Okay, so let's talk quick Disney Plus Marvel stuff. WandaVision trailer dropped, which I watched tonight, and it looks rather intriguing. I wasn't really ever sure what the show was going to be, and I still don't. I don't think they've done a really great job explaining what the fuck is going on, because it's clear that like from the trailer, even like Wanda's like what the fuck, like they're
Yeah.
both stuck in this alternate dimension. It's so weird. The one of those stars of Marvel's Loki, another Disney Plus series, confirms that they're back in production post COVID. Movie news: we have Kang the Conqueror, one of the bigger, not biggest, but bigger villains in the Marvel Comics lore. He's a kind of time traveler type character. It's kind of like time traveling Mr. Freeze ish, at least in the iterations I've seen, in that he wants to save his wife, who's like got this rare disease that can't be cured. So he's going through time to try to save her, and then essentially goes full villain after that. So that's going to be star of one of the stars of Lovecraft Country, who
Yep.
and for some reason my Jonathan
Forget
Majors,
his name. Yeah,
Jonathan
Jonathan
Majors
Majors.
is going to do that. And then rounding out the Marvel news is that Black Widow has been delayed to 2021, and that Eternals and Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten
Shang-Chi.
Rings has been
Shang-Chi.
shuffled as well. So that's coming out in the summer, and then Eternals is coming out later in the year. And that is assuming the 2021 plans still hold. So now Black Widow has literally moved back an entire calendar year, which I kind of figured from the beginning, because like Fast and Furious was one of the first movies to move back a full year. Like they just were like, fuck it, next April. Bye. They didn't even bother with this fucking around, delaying, pushing. They were just like, now we'll see in 12 months and we'll figure it out then. Which I at least appreciate from, I believe that's Universal.
Yeah, I believe so.
I appreciate Universal strategy a little more, instead of just fucking around with, hey, every 2 months we're gonna move and move and move.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a year-long thing. Just
Yeah, but
rip
to be
the
fair,
Band-Aid off.
to be fair though, Black Widow and all of the MCU is so interconnected with a
True.
specific timeline. So I can see why they were hesitant to completely just say fuck it and move it 12 months ahead of time,
True.
because they really, this is I have a I have a suspicion this isn't Scarlett Johansson's swan song in the MCU. That's why I think they keep moving it. That's why I think that this isn't a Disney release, because I think there is going to be something major coming out of that film in regards to her or Robert Downey Jr. and their characters going forward in the MCU. That's why I feel like I think there's going to be more to the story than just, oh, this happened between Civil War and Infinity War and it's a quick one-off. I think it's a little more to it than that.
Yeah.
I do. So that's why I could see Disney and Marvel saying we don't want to just shove this onto Disney Plus, make the money back of the budget and just call it a day. I think that there's something bigger playing that we don't know about.
Cool.
Putting on my tinfoil hat here and
I,
thinking something.
I'm thinking that they're trying to spin off the new Black Widow. That's my
Okay.
take. I mean, that's kind of a given. But given that is it Florence Pugh? Is her
Yeah,
last name?
Florence Poe,
Yeah.
Pugh. Yeah.
I'm thinking she's gonna be the new Black Widow, and she's like a rising star too. So that's probably where they're going. But let's talk about that WandaVision trailer. What were your thoughts on that?
I think this does show that a brief snippet does show that sword may come into play here at some point, which will make things fun.
Because don't we know that they're in Loki though? I
Yes,
thought
as
we had some stills that
I
had
think
like their logos and
yeah,
stuff.
I think we've established they're going to be in Loki, but they're going to make their debut in some regard to in WandaVision. Okay, I'm gonna
I
be
could
honest with you.
imagine Sword being the crossover of all three of their properties, right? Because someone's got to be controlling U.S. Agent, the like
Yeah.
Captain America knockoff. So my guess is it's Sword that's operating inside another agency. That's okay. I'll shut up now.
No, that's an interesting theory that it's Sword that takes the reins in the TV MCU. What worries me, well, not worry me, but the trailer confused the fuck out of me.
Yeah, it's
Because when
so
I
weird.
okay, so if you know the character in the comics that she can alter reality, that makes a lot of sense. That's a way for her to bring Vision back, but she completely warps reality. But based off the trailer, she's cognitive of the fact that she's stuck somewhere and doesn't know what's going on. So I really can't see it being her powers. I think it's something else at play here that we don't know about. Especially when there's scenes where like there are people in the flashback scenes, like the in the world they're living in, characters that are suddenly being shot into reality, what looks like reality. Like, so they're being pulled from this world into the MCU active world, because there were a couple of characters you see that happen to. So like there's just a lot to pull out of it in such a short time, because there's just a lot of quick shots, boom, 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 boom. But I mean, it makes you wonder though how what's going to happen with Vision going forward is what I'm looking forward to.
It was
Knowing
nice to
what
see
happens
Paul
with him.
Bettany again.
Yeah, yeah,
I missed him in Endgame.
I did.
He like for as little as Vision slash Jarvis really had to do in the MCU, he was always like a nice presence to have on screen or
Well,
in
when you think
voice at
about it, we
least.
only got really what, a movie and not even a movie combined over three different films of
Exactly,
Vision.
and still
Really?
had a good arc.
Yeah.
Like it still had clear, defined relationships with a lot of the Avengers characters, which is what I'll just another hat tip to Marvel and the MCU for just making those connections with such minor story wise characters. It's crazy. And now those seeds are paying off in like a fucking miniseries TV show, which I'm
Good God.
very fascinated to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of Disney Plus, I didn't even have Mandalorian trailer on the list, but
Ugh.
we'll save that for when Mandalorian actually drops.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Because man, there's some Star Wars shit going on today. Like fucking Raul Coley kicked off a huge fucking firestorm on Twitter, and like people were like, "Oh my god, are you playing Ezra?" Like, and he's like, "No, he was just fucking around." Because that's all he ever does. So yeah, that's it for Marvel stuff. Let's go to kind of comic book adjacent, at least Marvel and DC adjacent, and also back to Amazon, which is the Boys spinoff that was announced today. At least it's in like pre-development. Obviously, who knows if things ever actually get to shooting the series. But it's a spinoff of The Boys. It's set in college for young soups, which is again run by Vought International. So this is probably going to be a precursor
Yep.
to The Boys, set maybe in the past. They call it an irreverent R-rated series that explores the lives of hormonal competitive soups as they put their physical, sexual, and moral boundaries to the test. Part college show, part Hunger Games, with all the heart, satire, and raunch of The Boys. I'm not gonna lie, based on what we've seen from The Boys, it sounds like a natural fit to kind of take it into a, like, I could imagine it being like a superhero Van Wilder almost, or American Pie
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
comedy, but way darker. Of course, with a lot more overtones with like the Vought tie-in stuff, and I'm sure we maybe get some cameos from characters we've already seen in seasons 1 and 2 of The Boys. But what's your take off on a Boys spinoff as opposed to like an original, like an adaptation from source material?
First, obviously, Amazon is basing this off of the traffic towards the show, rather than the really fucking annoying like the people slamming the reviews because it went to a weekly model. That's, I mean, obviously, like there's a ton of people watching the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gone, frankly, it's a damn good show. But I like this idea because this is a very similar to Umbrella Academy. These are those quieter, under the radar comic book properties that are getting really good shows. And I like that. I'm hoping for a few more. I'm hoping Dark Horse gets a
Invincible's
few.
coming out.
Invincible's coming out, and god damn it, I want Why the Last Man, but I don't want it on a network
I
like
want me a damn
FFX.
good
FX
Hellboy
is.
series.
Hellboy. God,
Netflix, let's fucking go.
there's just so many. Like The Goon could be a great, like, a great
Of course, there's
Amazon
always
show.
Spawn. Like,
Oh
if
Lord,
somebody ever wanted to touch that mess of shit, like just
all you can't get that untangled until you get rid of Todd McFarlane, and
I
he owns
know,
the rights, so
I
that's never
know,
going
it's
to
gonna be
happen, man.
crazy. Like, there's some bigger. not quite household names, but definitely tentpole, like maybe not even indie because they're too big to be really called indie, but like titles that they could go for. Like, I mean, Preacher was one too. Obviously,
Preachers. Well,
wasn't
there's
a
going to be a Sandman one, which I'm really looking
exactly.
forward to.
Yeah,
But Preacher, yes, 100 Bullets is another good one. There are some really good series out there. Like The Losers could have been. I like The Losers as a
Losers
movie. It
is
was
a
really
very
good.
underrated movie. Not
Yeah,
perfect,
yeah,
but it's a
yeah.
really good like kind of heist movie slash like like action movie.
Yep,
Like some of the fight scenes were fantastic,
yep.
and also has a cool heist element.
DC Vertigo has
Oh,
moving the
Red
banner.
too. Red would be a
Red,
great one.
yeah. Um, there's a ton of like under the radar comic lines out there. Battle Chasers could be one. The Darkness could be another one at some point. Witchblade. There's so many possibilities for these shows that are like low key good popular comic books that weren't like super duper mainstream, that you could put them on a rated R network like that, do a rated R show type, like on a Netflix or a Prime, and really, they thrive. I like this idea, man. I like this idea of The Boys getting a spinoff. It's the right time. Obviously, everyone really likes The Boys, even though the reviews say otherwise. But why not cash in right now for Netflix? I mean, I'm sorry, Amazon. Why not cash in on it?
Yeah, I agree.
It's right for the picking. So it'll be interesting to see who. I think Seth Rogen's and Adam Goldberg are going to show run this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are they?
Yep.
Okay.
And they're the ones
Uh,
behind Invincible too, so I have very high hopes for that.
yeah.
That's gonna
Yeah.
be great. Yeah, and speaking of Seth Rogen, apparently I was watching an interview with Jack Quaid. He plays Huey. He was on the,
Yep.
I believe it was We Have Cool Friends with Greg Miller. And he's like, yeah, Seth Rogen read Carl Urban's lines in the audition. He was like, this is insane, because he's like trying to do the accent and it's terrible. It was like, oh man, I love when people are like that involved in their own projects and then it
Yeah.
pays off. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
That's
So
awesome.
I've changed over here to the dual cam fusion because we are at roughly 50 minutes of showtime.
Okay.
And we haven't got to our big topic yet. So
Let's do it.
let's go between one topic, and I'll let you pick. We have The Boys, episodes 4 and 5, which we could kind of do like a recap and or ish review of. Or we could talk about like the biggest gaming acquisition maybe ever. Like a sale that dwarfs Star Wars, dwarfed Minecraft, dwarfed literally everything. And that's Xbox buying Bethesda. What would you go with?
Wow, this is really a tough one. No, I'm kidding, guys. No, it's not a tough one. $7.5 billion fucking dollars. $7.5 billion. Warburg, I didn't know ZeniMax was worth $7.5 billion. Did you?
No, I mean, it doesn't shock me once I like dig into the catalog and the number of studios that got bought.
Yeah.
But like at face value, like I didn't think like because when you think ZeniMax, you think Bethesda. You don't think all their other like Arcane and all these other properties they've got going on. Plus like all their tech side stuff, like the stuff that they're working on in VR and like literally all of it as a company. They're a lot bigger than just Bethesda games.
Yep.
So like yeah, that was when that dropped. That was Monday, right?
I think it was Monday. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is a story. I'm on The Verge here. This is from September 21st. So this was Monday. Yeah, they're acquiring Bethesda Softworks and parent company ZeniMax as a whole. $7.5 billion in cash. Microsoft, not just throwing down the hammer. Like Phil Spencer is like, here's my Series X size dick on the table. Like Sony can't play this game. Like They don't have the money. This is like 20% of their like cap right here. And Microsoft just be like, chump change. Here you go.
Yeah, when you talk about Sony being a market cap of $45 billion and Microsoft has $150 billion just in cash lying around.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, we'll buy you guys. What do you want? 6.5? Well, fuck it. Let's make it 7.5. Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's a cashier's check.
Absolutely insane. So of course the big news for Xbox is that all the Bethesda games, outside of the current contracted exclusive stuff to Sony, which there is a few, Deathloop being the one that I'm most interested in, which was always probably going to be a timed exclusive, given that it's a Bethesda thing. They generally don't do console exclusives. They do timed exclusives, whether that be like Oblivion or Skyrim being timed and then moving over to the others. And that one, Deathloop being from Arcane, and then Tango Gameworks doing Ghostwire Tokyo. That's their Japanese studio. But those are going to be honored as timed exclusive deals. Future games will come to non-Xbox platforms on a case-by-case basis. So we're talking, your Dooms, your Skyrims, your Fallouts. Those are not going to be console exclusive. That's just leaving hundreds of million on the table. Microsoft, while they're consumer friendly, they're not going to say like fuck off to money. And it's a win for gamers. Like Phil Spencer gives a shit about gamers whether you're on Xbox or not. Obviously, there's more of a shit if you're on the Xbox platform.
Yeah.
But the guy's a gamer.
He engages gamers on social media all the time.
Yeah, like
he's very receptive to guys.
And his whole thing since Xbox, he took over Xbox post, the Xbox One failure, during the middle of all that was just like, I'm all about the games. Doesn't even have to be always Xbox. I'm all about the games. Because some of their still, like, you look at what they've done with Ori. Ori is now on Switch. They're putting Xbox Live stuff like everywhere. Minecraft is everywhere. They didn't pull it from services when they could have after they bought it. They didn't do that. So it's hard to put into an appropriate context how big this purchase is, though, because it was right before the day before Xbox One pre-orders. You get this huge just like putting it all on the table. Hey, we just bought Bethesda. You should get Game Pass. Oh my god! And as a follow-up that happened today, they announced October 1, Doom Eternal coming to Xbox Game Pass.
That's how you do it, man. Yes. That's how you do it.
That is so amazing. Like, I can imagine the Doom. I mean, Doom came out in March, so it's been about 6 months-ish. It was coming to Game Pass sooner than later, but the timing could not have been, serendipitous or otherwise, could not have been more perfect.
You know what's funny? Okay, so last week when Sony announced the cut price points for the PlayStation 5, the regular console, and the digital, we were all like, "Hey, wow, Microsoft has a lot to do now," because that's not really a mic drop, but hey, Sony did one up, that digital version being $299. Hey, that's a great entry.
That's $399.
Sorry,
but still not that big of a jump from the $299.
No. And so, everyone's waiting with bated breath what Microsoft was going to do this week, and then on Monday morning they're like, "You know what? Yeah, before we announce the prices, how about this? We just bought one of the largest AAA gaming publishers in the entire world, for about, $8 billion, not that much, So, on top of that, we're going to put all their fucking games on Game Pass. So you might want to buy Game Pass. What happened? 78% increase in subs for Game Pass.
Yeah, they are up. They are up 50% from 6 months ago, which was, I believe, 15 million.
Okay.
So it's at 15 million now, which is a 50% increase from 6 months ago, and that was before the Bethesda purchase.
Yeah.
That's before. So you're talking they're at least 20 million now.
Yeah. And then on top of that, okay, so the next day, so we're going to go ahead and release it. Here are the price points. Everyone's like, okay, we like that. Now the pre-orders, that's another that's a whole thing where we got to talk.
That's an industry-wide problem.
That's an industry problem, and honestly, this was more of retailers, where retailers completely shit the bed,
including Microsoft in some cases. They are technically a retailer, whereas Sony is not.
But everybody shit the bed on this. Thankfully, I was able to get a console, and my story is 10 a.m. Central Time, everybody was shitting their bed, and then 56 minutes in to that hour, Amazon decided they were going to put their link live. And that's how I was able to snag a system. It was through by luck. I was about to step away to go to a meeting, and I refresh. Oh shit! The link just went live. I'm gonna buy a unit. Okay, and I get my Amazon points off of it. Good deal all around for me, right? But I know a lot of people were left out. Holding and on top of all that, I know a lot of people and I thought about this when I bought my unit, just because of how it was laid out on the search menu. I knew a lot of people were going to accidentally buy an Xbox One X.
I was stunned they didn't pull those from the stores.
Yeah, they really should have done that. I'm not saying it's a monstrous look. It's just not a good look right now.
No,
it's not.
Obviously, those returns will be accepted by all the major retailers. If people aren't idiots, they'll get their money back, right? Yeah. It's just not a great look in the moment.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite bits was, man, what if it was scalpers that did that? They just coded their bots wrong. That'd be crazy.
Awesome.
That would be hilarious. I would laugh my ass off.
With the PlayStation 5 a couple weeks ago, the Xbox One X and S, and then the RTX 3080 card, the RTX 3090 card. Obviously, bots have come into play that have really fucked people
Hmm.
because within minutes after these sites crash, people are posting. They're posting on eBay like hundreds of units on eBay.
Yeah.
Within minutes. So it's very frustrating because an actual consumer can't get their hands on it.
Hmm.
Um, but man, I thought really good news, and sprinkled in all this, we kept making jokes like, Sony's starting to look bad. The little even worse tidbit was, yeah, we're not gonna offer a standalone version of the Spider-Man game on the PS5.
What a
It's gonna be part of the Miles Morales. It's gonna be, but it's remastered. But you can't really. We're gonna do. Come on, guys. Like,
like
I don't.
I don't like it. It's like a worse version of the Call of Duty remasters that were bundled with the games, right?
I wonder what Sony's thought process is. Like, they don't. I think they like the money. They just don't like the gaming community. I really
I
think that's the case.
I think part of it is like they are not an American company. Obviously,
Yeah.
Sony Entertainment is. They're
Yeah.
mostly Western run, but I think that's the right delineation. They've changed their names and their
No,
divisions a
Sony
bunch.
Entertainment is U.S. based.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so like they are U.S. based, but like a similar one for me is like Assassin's Creed 3 got the remaster that was bundled with Assassin's Creed Odyssey if you bought the gold edition.
Yeah.
So you had to pay more to get it, but eventually you could just buy it outright. Not right away. It was timed because of course they want to push the gold sales of the new title. Same
Sure.
with the new Modern Warfare had the 2000 was it 2008, 2009, the OG Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare got a remaster with the new game, and eventually you could buy it. Sony said that's not going to happen.
Nope.
They could reverse course with Outcry, but that's a real bad place to start from. Is you don't ever get to buy it, which is like, well, why not? Like, what if, like, why not? Like, what's the fucking point?
Yep.
Like, what? Again, most people that are going to buy that game are also going to buy the Miles Morales. So I get that maybe they didn't even understand that you should separate those kind of into like two different products.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you're going to buy one, get the other. Like most people are going to do that.
Yep.
Because if they're fans of the one, they'll buy the other. But it's just so bizarre to me that you can't get it separate ever.
Nope.
If that holds through the early years of the PlayStation life cycle, at least the first 12 months, I won't be surprised. I'll be a little surprised because consumers are not happy. But I don't think Sony gives enough of a shit to change.
Well, man, it's kind of weird because when they announced the PlayStation, if you remember, they showed that first trailer for Miles Morales, and it set the internet off.
Yeah.
Everyone was so excited. But then one of their executives tweeted out right after the presentation that Miles Morales wasn't a standalone game.
Yeah,
And then
exactly. It
within
was such a mishmash of messaging.
yeah, and so it just makes me wonder. It's like, what the fuck is going on with these guys? Just because it's like they love taking money. They would gloat at the fact that they won the last console war with the PS4. They won that one outright. Um, but they get a cut of a small percentage of every Xbox that was sold because of the Blu-ray, right?
Yeah.
They liked all that. Now Microsoft just kind of let their dick hang for the beginning of this round
Yeah.
because like they buy the publisher. They say, you know what, on top of all that, those PS5 exclusives, well, you get 30%, but we get the other 70%, bruh. So you know what, we like this deal, on top of all of the other things. And Microsoft, the one thing Xbox has really done very well is that they have, like you said, they're all about the gamers and the games, right? So
Mhm.
they don't care about creating proprietary things, tech specs that are only for them.
Except for one caveat to this story.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Let me finish that real quick. My thought.
You go finish
You
your
know,
thought.
then we jump over to what Sony did, and that digital PlayStation 5. It has an 800 gig hard drive. Why is it 800? Why isn't it just 1 terabyte? Because that's a proprietary hard drive. They don't want you to go in and throw in an OEM to up the space. It's like, why would they do that? Why would it come with 800 gigs? I can put two fucking games on that. It's like there's a lot of little things that make you wonder Sony's thought process when it comes to their gaming division. It really does. But go ahead. What you were going to say about where did Microsoft screw the drop the ball, so to speak?
Drop the ball a little bit today. Let me really, man, Edge sucks sometimes. Great on memory, but man, its search function
Yeah.
is a pain in the ass. That is that today, Microsoft announced, sorry for the clickety-clacks of the keys, people, if you're watching this on YouTube. Where is the story? And that's their memory. Like, they announced that they're putting out a proprietary expansion for their hard drive. It's a 1 terabyte SSD. It's like a PCI 4.0 NVMe type hard drive, which are very expensive across the board. Doesn't matter which manufacturer you come from. Theirs is priced, I believe it was $219 for an extra terabyte, which is pretty much in line with every other type of. It's a little more, but it's also like a memory card size. Like, it's tiny. It's a tiny little thing.
Okay, so they're doing the same thing then with the hard
They're
drive.
doing the same thing. But major caveat, of course, to both is USB expansion drives, totally doable. You can play old games off of those expansion drives. But with the hard drive change for the new games, you won't, like, I have a 2 terabyte plugged into my One X. You can't see it now. I have a 2 terabyte plugged in. So I can play games off that right now, based on how the games are constructed. Sure. On the new consoles, if I tried to play a new game, like if I tried to play Halo Infinite off I can store it on my USB drive. If I try to play it off that USB drive, it won't work. Literally will not function. So you have to move them on to the NVMe drive, the new SSD format, to the main drive to be able to play. You can shuffle back and forth with ease, and Microsoft's new UI looks fantastic, and they've always been really good about file transfers. Not always bug-free or anything, but a far better user experience on the console side for like file transfer and management than PlayStation's. PlayStation has been terrible at that since they got rid of memory cards. I'm going to be honest. PlayStation 3 and 4, getting through their mess of a menu system kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Whereas Microsoft, while it changed a lot in the One X style, on the 360 they nailed it. And the One, I think, finally got there once they figured out the layout better. But I have more faith in Microsoft's file management system than I do Sony's.
Yeah.
Being more user-friendly to move games around. Because we're going to have to be shuffling games, as this generation goes on. But on the plus side, many developers have said that since it's a condensed SSD, which are much faster for loading, it eliminates a lot of redundant assets that games are built with. Right out of the gate, as games are developed, you're not going to see the lower sizes yet. But they theorize in practice that they'll see much smaller game sizes towards the end of the life cycle of the console because the hard drive will not need. You don't need to load the character asset 8 times. You can load it twice. Sure. Because it can just recall that original asset just so fucking fast compared to a traditional hard drive that they have been using in the One X or the Xbox Ones, PlayStation 4s, and like modern SSDs. These new 4.0 and later SSDs are a world-class difference in terms of speed and file management, which is apparently going to change some things, not super drastically, but we're not going to see those like 200 gigabyte games as much as people are, I think, panicking over.
Okay. I am panicking just a bit because I had to go buy an NVMe drive for my computer today.
I was going to add, this is where I kind of hope to end on. Okay, so Fusion and I were in the same Discord that I use for my Twitch stuff. And so Fusion's like, just out of the blue, I looked down at my phone and he's like, I had to buy a 4th SSD for my computer today so I could move on, a 5th SSD so I could put all my games on it. My jaw almost hit the floor. I was like, fuck, how many fucking gigabytes of storage or terabytes of storage do you have?
Let's see here. I have a 4 terabyte hard drive, HDD, that's strictly for media, for videos, comic books, and all that good stuff, and music. That's an actual hard drive.
How full is that?
About 95% right now.
Holy shit!
Okay, so my OS SSD is a 500 gig, and I don't have any games on there, but unfortunately I have a lot of work stuff on there too, and so I'm probably about 65% capacity on that 512 gig operating system drive. I have one, and then there's 3 other 512s, and one of those was strictly dedicated for my Steam profile. For all of my PC games was for that 512 hard drive.
Oh shit.
Okay. Do you know that there are 2 games there are 2 games that take up that hard drive? Can you guess those 2 games right now?
Off Steam?
Yes.
I mean, I know
Off
Fallout's
Steam.
like 70. Fallout
Okay.
4 is like 70 gigs. I know you've been playing that.
No, and actually, that is actually not on that drive. That's on another 512 drive now.
Okay.
That's my okay. But there are two games. Okay, one of them is a Steam, and one of them is not. But can
Oh,
you
so
think of
it's
two games?
Warzone for one,
Warzone for one.
because that's like what is that now? That's up over 200, isn't it?
It's like 270 gigs now.
What's your other one?
It's a Master Chief Collection.
Oh yeah, yeah, you did say MCC, yeah, which is its own
MCC
beast.
and
But that's like
yeah,
six games.
that's 6 games. To be fair, it's 6 games. But I mean, just MCC and Warzone take up a 512 hard drive.
Fuck, that's
So
crazy.
I was like, I can't do this, man. My DayZ is like 10 gigs, miscreated another zombie game, 10 gigs, Rust is like 5 gigs. Fallout is like 70 gigs with all the DLC and a couple of the mods I've installed from Nexus on there. Okay. But I was like, I can't do this anymore, man. Like I'm running out of fucking hard drive space. Like I want to be able to play. I know, like Gamma and Jaren have said we're deleting it because it's just too big to play Warzone. But I like Warzone on the PC. It's fun.
Yeah,
I
it's a
like it
fun
better
game.
than it's not as fun on the console for me, just because I think the auto aiming. Because I know why the majority of players play on Warzone play console because of the auto aiming feature it has on there. I fucking hate that shit. I hate auto aiming. It's bullshit. Um, so I like Warzone on the PC, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to delete it after all, but I'm running out of hard drive space, so I had to buy a terabyte NVM, Sony hard drive, Evo hard drive. So yeah,
Damn, that's that is I that is impressive to have that
yeah.
much dedicated to your system. And did you not go with the 3090 card?
Oh, man, I tried today. I couldn't get it. Newegg literally like crashed the moment, and then the bots just they cleaned house. So I am getting a 3090, but I'm not. I'm gonna get it probably when the second wave at Newegg releases them. But
Jesus.
yes, I am getting a 3090 for this system. Yeah, yeah, I definitely am.
Holy
And then
shit.
plus I'm debating on upgrading the Ryzen to the what is it, the 3900?
The
This new chip,
Threadripper, yeah, like
the
the
Threadripper. That's I think
3900X, yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking about going ahead and getting that as well.
In
So yeah,
October is AMD's next conference where they'll probably announce Zen 3 or Zen 4
okay,
maybe. I think it was Zen 4, which is like their new chip architecture as well as their new graphics card, which will probably be nowhere
yeah,
near as good as the Nvidia ones, mostly because of their drivers,
yeah.
fucking suck.
Now, see,
But
like I'm an old guy. I have a little bit more disposable income than probably most of the people listening or watching. So, and you know what, guys, when you get to my age, you can do stuff like this and spend $1,800 on a GPU, at will. But honestly, the 3080 and the 3070 are great fucking cards when they're going to be back in stock and at a much more reasonable price. So definitely jump on them. I know you said you're probably going to jump on a 3070, right?
maybe the
Or 3080.
3080. If
Because the
it
30,
depends on the price point of the new Ryzen CPUs and what that affects the 3000 series. Like,
sure,
because I'm looking at depending on next spring where things fall for me on my budget on getting a new PC. Because I should
okay,
be able to recoup a little money off my current one. Because I'm not a two
sure.
PC guy. Joey was trying to talk me into a two PC stream setup, and I'm like, fuck no. I got like 200 followers on Twitch, and I don't care about it that much. Like I enjoy it. It's fun. I like doing charity streams. I don't need two fucking PCs and that kind of power draw. That's insane.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
need that.
yeah.
But as long I might get whatever I get, it's gonna have the 3080, barring
I rec-
anything crazy from AMD.
I recommend going the Ryzen route just because I've
Yes,
always been happy with
I
AMD.
love my Ryzen
Um,
system.
Intel has a lot to like about it, but you're paying more and you're getting a lot of juice. Those things they're massive energy. They just suck your electric line dry. They are like awful in terms of like how much juice they take. The Ryzens have been much more efficient, so I'm gonna jump on the new wave when it comes out. If not the 3900, like you said, that AMD conference is coming up. See what they have in store. Let's just see what they have in store to move forward with next year. But yeah, I'm getting a 3090, man, and I I'm gonna have to find a game that fucking plays at 8K. Why not? Because you pay $1,500 for a fucking card that can game at 8K at 100 frames. Why not?
CD Projekt Red is crazy enough to put something like that out for Cyberpunk, like a
Have you seen?
remaster or
Did you see Crisis Publishers, the jokes they made about the 3090?
yeah,
They actually okay. So Crisis Remastered is coming out, right?
not
They
review well.
actually there is a mode they've implemented just as a joke to benchmark and break the 30, not break the 3090, but cause it to not run at ultra settings. But it's a joke. It's just a joke. So if you go to the 3090 ultra settings, you're gonna get like you're not gonna get 4K at like 100 frames per second. You'll get it like 25, and they're gonna have like a lot of stuttering. It's just a joke. It's not like apparently this is just something they're doing to fuck with people, to see who actually read the joke, like read the complete joke, and who's actually gonna complain to them.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, it's pretty solid. Because I mean, there probably won't be that many people. Because I mean,
Because remember, for like the last 15 years,
can it
how
run
does Christ
Crisis?
can it run Crisis at Ultra? Can it run Crisis at Ultra? That was always the benchmark people tell you,
Yeah. So, anything else you want to touch on for news that happened over the last 2
No,
weeks?
man. I think we. You know what? We talk about the boys. Season 2 next week. We have one more episode. We'll be ramping up to the final two.
Plus, we
I
have
will
that
say
like mini episode movie with Butcher. That's
yes,
like
the
going to be
Butcher
his own
episode.
thing.
Yep, yep,
So either this week, the next episode, or the one after will be where we discuss. Hopefully by then, all of season 2.
yep. And also, just as a heads up, I did jump on the boys comic this week, and I
Ooh.
will tell you, really good Garth Ennis stuff. Not as good as Jennifer Blood, which was another indie comic he did, and the Pro, which was fucking hilarious. If you've never read the Pro, go read it. It's gory as hell, but it's fucking hilarious. Um, I get now why Simon Pegg was cast as Huey's father.
Yeah, because he
Do you
like
know why?
there was the likeness that they used.
It's like, Huey's character in the comic is just Simon Pegg's likeness, 100%.
Yeah, and
Like
like,
the first close up, it's Simon Pegg.
have you gotten to the spoiler with who Black Noir is?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I spoiled
Found
myself
it
on
very.
that because I don't think the show is going to do that.
I
I
don't think
think
so
they've
either.
already. That's a red herring. Like that,
Yep.
who is Black Noir thing is not going to fucking matter because
No.
mostly we've already seen him bleed. So
Yep.
there's that. Two, they've already introduced the kid who was not. I
Yep.
don't think the kid was in the comic book, right?
No.
So they
At this point,
veered
I'm not done
major.
yet, but no, no,
They
I'm not
veered
done.
quite a bit because like the Deep is like a character instead of just a dude in a fucking like aqua like diver's mask thing. They veered a lot, and you don't introduce a kid and then also introduced who Black Noir is in the comics. That's
Yeah.
too much fuckery around Homelander.
Yeah.
Too much. So,
Agreed.
and I can't imagine Kripke would go down that road for show running wise. So
No.
it'll be interesting to see though what they do with Black Noir though, because like, I mean he's such an important character in the end of the run, but and he obviously episode 5 had that scene when like he's coming into the house and like taking on the boys. Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Where they use the pipe bombs to like try to slow him down or track where he's at. Fantastic.
Without us squeezing in an update, but I just want to say, what Aya Cash, who plays Stormfront, fucking great job the last couple episodes, man.
Yeah,
Just,
I
oh
agree.
my god, just a great job. It's a really good show, guys. I can't speak enough about the boys. Like I was so like I don't know why I just sat on the first season and not watched it till a couple of weeks ago, but
It's okay. I'm like that with
yeah,
Mandalorian. I haven't watched it yet.
you haven't watched any of the first two seasons, the first
I've read
season.
reviews. I never watched
Okay,
the actual run. I know
okay.
kind of what happens, but I'll still watch it. I'll get
Okay,
caught up. Don't worry. I'll get
it's
caught up.
great because it is old Star Wars. It is
Yep.
old Star Wars, which will make you happy because you liked Clone Wars and Rebels.
Oh
It is
fuck
old
yeah.
Star Wars. It
Yeah.
is old Star Wars, which is what we've been needing, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm game. So I think that
Cool.
about wraps it up here for episode 2. Of course, if you're sticking around this far, definitely hit a like, hit the subscribe button. Hit us up on Twitter. I'm at MrWartburg. He's at It's Mr. Fusion. The links will be in the description below. So go give us a follow there if you want to stay up to date with our general Twitter shenanigans throughout the couple weeks between our shows. And thanks for sticking around.